My guest today is Ed Parcaut. So I didn't ask you to pronunciation. I hope I'm saying it right.
Parco.
Ed Parcaut is a respected professional in the mortgage industry with over 25 years of experience as a founder and CEO of Lending for Living. He's a best-selling author of Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Homeownership, offering practical advice on creating wealth through real estate. As the host of the iHeartRadio talk show, Estate Jerky, and the Edison podcast, Ed shares his expertise to help others achieve financial success. He was also featured in the 9-part docuseries Hacking Real Estate, produced by Revealed Films. He is a U.S. Navy veteran, and Ed brings a unique perspective to empowering clients to build personal wealth through home ownership and real estate investment. Ed, thanks a million, man, for joining me for this episode, especially on Saturday.
No problem. It's one of those things. Yeah. I want to help everybody, but I'm in I just feel, and I'm just going to my little thing right now. But I feel that our veterans aren't taken care of by our government, by a lot of things. And we all as veterans need to help other veterans build whatever it is. My big purpose lately has been helping veterans understand how important it is to get your benefits. And if you didn't get your benefits and you got a 10% or a 20%, how important it is to go back and up that. Because the VA is an insurance company who's going to deny you up front. That is their whole thing. They're not there to help us veterans. One guy says the VA is there to kill our veterans. And I can see that. It's a bureaucracy. It's like the post office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody thinks it's there. I want to scrap, and I'm sorry, this is my little soapbox. I apologize. But I think they should scrap the VA, give us a card to go to any insurance company in the world. I'm not insurance, but to go to any hospital and get taken care of, kind of like Medicare, but it paid back at a higher level. So vets can go get help. And because we're losing 50 of us a day right now.
Wow.
And a lot of them are committing suicide in the VA parking lot because here's all these pills, but they're not helping them get better. And the reason it's so important with the benefits, because think about it, as a business owner, right? Because this one's about business. If you're getting a disability check from the VA, doesn't mean that you can't do anything. It just means you have that money not to worry about while you're building your business, right? If you're 100% disabled, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything. It just means you have enough elements to add it up to 200 points to get 100% disability. Now you're getting $4,000 a month if you're married. That's $60,000, not, if it's taxable income, that you could build a business and not worry about taking money out of your business as you're building it, or using that money to help you qualify for a home on top of your normal income. And so that's why I think it's very important. And it's only been in the last, I would say 10 years that there's been a big change, really in the last 5 years, of helping veterans get their benefits. And I think it's so important to do that. And so I'm going full in on helping that. And I'm creating a totally different website, because Helping the Brave that's my other podcast, which is about helping. And it was all about telling transition stories and what they've been through. And then lately it's kind of gotten into more business. Everybody I'm talking to, it seems like 50% of vets have a business. And that's great, because we learned that from the military: attention to details, SOPs, all those different things. And I think it's very important to utilize what we learned. But we also are not the same from the moment we went in until we got out. Things happen to us while we're in, and we should get that benefit because of that.
I got you. Yeah. Definitely. I definitely feel you, man. That's yeah. So, let me kind of dive into your, mortgage business and real estate side of things. Hey, can you tell us a little bit about your journey from the Navy to becoming the founder and CEO of Lending for Living?
Yeah. So I joined the Navy to see the world. I got to see San Diego and Texas. And I was actually stationed at Camp Pendleton with the Marines. Pretty much my whole time I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, except for I went to specialty school to be physical therapy. And I utilized the military like I tell everybody to do. I got my bachelor's while I was in. I was working on my master's and then finished it up when I got out. But when I had a different GI Bill. I didn't have the good one that came after 9/11. I had the first one that didn't really give you anything much towards education. It gave you a little bit. But from that, once I got out, I knew that when I was getting out, what I wanted to do was to be in business. That's why was getting a bachelor's and master's in business. And when I first got out, this is way before. This is a long time ago, and through the military exchange systems, which everybody knows about if you've been in, is these little department stores. Well, they used to not have computers where you could actually make them into gaming computers or whatever else before everybody came out with that. And so we would customize computers and sell them through the military exchange system. And that was my first endeavor into that side of it outside of the military. And that lasted for a couple of years. And that was my first understanding of taking the wrong thing to the wrong company, meaning that kind of contract. And so that kind of fell apart. And then my neighbor actually owned a mortgage company. I was talking to him. He goes, "Why don't you try it?" Well, I ended up loving helping people with I love numbers, especially the mortgage stuff. And I love helping change the trajectory of people's lives and families by getting them into homes. From buying a home and moving forward, you change how that family thinks, meaning that now the kids think they can own a home and other people can own a home. And the net worth you build by owning real estate is huge. 90% of all millionaires brought it from the military, from real estate. And so, and being a veteran, you have the VA loan, which is 100% financing. You can, I tell everybody now, your first home as a veteran, because you're going to be in while you're doing it, you should buy a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex. And that way you're in the investment world, but with no money down. Right? You buy it with no money down, you live in one of them and you rent out the other ones. And then eventually when you transfer to your next duty station, you do it again. And then when you finally get out, you buy the single family home you want to live in. But now you've built up real estate that you don't have to put 25% down on to get. Because a normal duplex, triplex, or fourplex, if it's going to be bought as the investment property, you got to put 25% down. So you're going to see all these people on Instagram and TikTok and all, they're talking about these new programs that the VA's been doing. It's been around forever. It's just a matter of no one utilized it like that, didn't think about it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah. What you can't do is buy your first single family home and then go buy a duplex or a triplex and say you're going to live in there, because they're going to want, that doesn't sound right. Normally you go from one of the 3 units, 4 units, and then go buy the single family home. So it's just finding somebody like me that understands that process for you.
Oh, I got you. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
So did I answer your question how I got into the industry? Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The worst person to have on is another podcast host.
Hey, no, that's great, man. Hey, it don't matter, man. Hey, let's dive into your book real quick. You got a couple of questions on that, and let me hit this bumper music, and then we'll go in. Oh, I got it the first time. Oh my God, I'm getting better. Hey man, let's talk about your book. The last podcast I did this, I think it was all anyway. I had to fix it. Anyway, so let's talk about the book Financial Freedom. It's a bestseller. What are the key takeaways, for someone just starting their wealth building journey?
Well, so a friend of mine, the one we talked about originally, his dad read the book and he's like, "This is the first real estate book where the first chapter is credit." And I said, "Yeah, because it's so important that if you don't have credit, we can't move forward." So all this is it's a roadmap to help you understand. Yes, it's not that difficult to do this. Second, people make it harder than it needs to be. And the reason I say that, and the reason I wrote the book, is because there's only one of me, and I look at things totally different than other people, and I do things totally different than other people. I can close a VA loan in 9 days, where most companies say it takes them 30 to 45 days. And that's just because we do things differently than other people.
Wow.
And yeah, so we're limited. So sometimes it takes us 10 days because the VA appraiser has 10 days to turn in the appraisal. And
Yeah,
some
yeah.
VA appraisers take their sweet ass time, excuse my language. Other ones are
Yeah.
like, I want to get paid this $800, so I'm going to get it in 3 days because they get paid right away.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, again, this book is Financial Freedom. This was everybody. I'm actually finishing up my Financial Freedom for just veterans. Now I have a totally different book that's basically just about VA only. And actually in there talks about the benefits and why you want to get your benefits, because we were talking beforehand. If you're 100% disabled, in a lot of states, you don't pay property tax. In other states, you don't pay property tax over a certain dollar amount. That's over a certain dollar amount, you pay property tax, but in a lot of states, so that can save you a lot of money on a monthly basis if you have your benefits. So, but sorry, my cord's messing up. It's in the wrong place.
Oh, yeah, you can go ahead and fix it, man.
I just did.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. It's just, I'm not used to it. It's Saturday. I'm a little slow today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine, man.
But a lot of people, like my co-host that I have on my radio show, he gave it to his son, and his son read it, and he's like, "Dad, now I know I can actually own a home. I can buy a house. It makes it so much easier to understand the process." And that's how I set the book up. Easy to read. I didn't want a War and Peace, and I didn't want a pamphlet, so it's right in the middle. My goal was to have about you could finish it in 3 hours, and that was my goal, start to finish, and understand how easy it is. In our industry, for years, we tried to make it a secret. So you had to go. So it was, you thought it was difficult and we were your savior. It's not that big of a deal. If you have the credit, right, then you can move forward. If you don't, there shows you different ways of getting it. So, and then the second is if you don't have the income, because you don't have enough money, you're not making enough money. Well, let's see about getting your benefits increased. That would increase, because think about $4,000 a month. And then if you have kids, now it's even more than that per kid. And then plus your normal income. Now you make enough. Plus that one of the things we can do, and this is a VA show, so I'm going to talk about it, is your disability income is non-taxable. So we get to gross that up by 25% as if to make it a taxable income. Are you following me what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Right. So if it's $5,000, you bring it. So it's $4,000 you're bringing in. I get to add 25% of that on top of that. Now that's what you're bringing in. You're bringing in $5,100 or $5,500 now as income, like you were doing regular income. So that means I can help you qualify for a higher home. Plus on VA loans, since we're on a veteran show, everybody thinks we talk about debt to income ratio. Debt to income ratio means for every dollar you bring in, how many cents of that dollar goes towards your mortgage and how many cents of that dollar goes towards your mortgage and other debt. On a typical home, like conventional, that's 50%. On a FHA, it's like 56%. On VA, there really isn't a debt to income ratio. It goes off of reserves. How much money do you have left over? So I've pushed debt to income ratios. I've seen them up to 63, 73, some ridiculous number, because these people make enough money. They have enough in reserves to offset everything. And that's the big difference in when you're doing VA loans, that a lot of times people talk debt to income ratio. If they're talking debt to income ratio, that tells you they have no idea how the VA loan works. And what I mean by that is go find somebody else.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because that means they don't understand VA loans. You need to go with somebody who that's pretty much what they do. 80% of everything I do right now is VA. The other thing is business owners and reverse mortgages.
Yeah. So
you said my company was lending for living. I've now just separated out my companies into 3 different companies. So my one for VA is loansquad.com. And that way you can go there and it breaks down everything about the VA loans. So when I'm talking to vets, I'm only talking to vets. My lending for living is reverse mortgage only. I'm talking to reverse mortgage only. My Source One Financial is for business only. Are you following me here? Because it's really, we're on a business podcast, which really talks about, you need to know who your perfect client is, and you need to talk to that perfect client so they can hear you. If you don't niche down, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you think no one's hearing you. If you niche down, they hear you, and you repel the people you don't want, and you bring the people you want closer to you. And that's what's so important. I know we were talking about my book, but my book's all about just how easy the process is. And the reason I just finished 1-in-1 just for veterans is because I'm going full force just to help veterans. And it's important to understand the VA process and the difference in the loan. And there's a lot of other stuff. Like in California, we have termites. But there is, like, we know that we can use this VA short form, which is so they'll do 2 pest inspections. They'll do a regular pest inspection and the short form. The short form just says there's no active pests. That's all we need for a VA loan. You can still negotiate with the seller and everything else to handle all that stuff, but we don't need to know about it. So but I know this because I do VA loan a lot. Other people have no idea about it. Other lenders don't do that. Did I answer your questions?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Just one more question related to this book, and then we can, So for veterans or small business owners with limited capital, so how can real estate serve as a tool for financial growth?
I don't know if you know this, but everybody's talking about having five streams of income. Your business, whatever, that's what is your normal stream of income, right? You need to have 4 other streams of income, whether that is coaching, if that's what you're into, or if you're doing podcast stuff, or you're doing one of those form of income could be, this is all you're talking, maybe passive income. Real estate is passive income, meaning that if you have investments and the whole thing is about what are you receiving per month from that investment, meaning cash flow. A lot of people buy real estate and it's about appreciation. Those are not investors. Those are gamblers. Any good investor wants cash flow. That cash flow is how you keep moving and how you have additional source of income. So you really need to look at numbers and make sure that it actually flows to me before you buy that property. So real estate is passive income and can be one of those 5 pillars that you get money each month. And this could be not necessarily from single family homes or units. It could be from, storage units. Storage units is an amazing investment because people put their stuff in there and then forget about it and pay you every month. So there's many different ways to invest in real estate. So that's why it's so important to invest in real estate is passive income. And like, we have our house, we have land, we also have a cabin, which is our second home. And we bought the cabin, and from the cabin, we were able to buy 32 acres to build our forever home on. We've now since decided to split that up and then finally sell it off into multiple lots. But that was what I'm saying is real estate helps you benefit and grow more from the appreciation. And the fact, if you look at where we're at with homes, we normally each year we need to build 1.9 million homes just to keep up with population growth. And when I say homes, I mean ones to buy and ones to rent, right? Family and regular stuff. We are at 1.3 million right now a year. We've been in a negative for the past 12 to 13 years. We need to build minimally just affordable homes. The question is affordable homes. That's different in every city, every neighborhood, but that's 3.8 million. That's just affordable homes. We still need to build probably another 8 million regular homes that we're so short of. So what I'm getting at is real estate's still going to appreciate. That's why people have been waiting for real estate to fail. It's not going to fail because people aren't putting their houses on the market. And then the average person has between $200,000 to $300,000 in equity in their home. And so they're not, even if they lost a job and it's going foreclosure, they can sell their house and walk away with money. Where before they'd walk away with nothing. And so that's if you look at nationwide, we're still appreciation at 3.5 to 4% to 6%, depending on what company's putting the numbers out. It used to be we were happy with a 4 to 5% appreciation a year in real estate. But did you hear what I'm just saying? So now, currently, we are seeing that people are like, okay, the market's going to fail, but we're still appreciating even in this high interest rate environment ridiculously. And people are still buying. We're not buying at the volume that we used to buy at because people are like, well, I got this low interest rate and I don't want to get rid of it and buy another house, even though I got extra kids and I only have a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. I need a 4-bedroom, or I need to, move for my job. I'm not doing it because I don't want to increase my payment. I call that an abusive relationship. Those things meaning that it's holding you back. You want to make a change, but it's comfortable and you're staying there, kind of like an abusive relationship would be. And so you need to stop worrying about what that rate is and do what's best for you and your family and move forward. And so I hope I answered that question, but I think a lot of people don't understand that we are still going to appreciate for the next 25 years. That's my statement. I know for a fact for 20 years, we're going to continue to appreciate, because we're not going to be able to catch up with the amount of homes we need. It's just because of, especially look at California. Right now, when we're doing this, we have LA that just burned, and it's going to take them probably 5 years to rebuild all those homes. And one of the biggest problems that they're going to run into is the Coastal Commission and other people are going to stop them from doing things because of all these regulations that we have in California. And now they're going to go, okay, this is ridiculous. And then we're going to see a huge change in California to where they're going to make it easier by electing the right people in place to do this stuff. What I'm getting at is in California, we can't build because of the regulations, or it's so costly. To do in this town next to me, there's just a small town. It costs $130,000 just to get the building permit.
Wow.
Of a house. That's not even counting like land and everything else. So that's how expensive it is. So how do you build affordable housing when you have $150,000 of costs, that is permits and other stuff that and now you to build it, so now you're in a $500,000-$600,000 home just as a regular home.
Wow. How much does milk cost? No, that's just kind of no.
I know,
those are crazy numbers, man.
Yeah, and what people understand is we went through inflation. Okay, when we get less inflation, it doesn't mean the cost of things are going to go down. It just means they're not going to go up as much. Right? That's where we're at. People didn't understand 2 years ago how bad inflation was, because they hadn't heard about it unless you were 55 years old or older. Those are the people who understood inflation. 20 years old, 30 years old, 40, had never lived through that or seen or heard from their parents about how bad it was with inflation during the 70s. And so people didn't understand what was coming. They just thought, hey, this is great. I'm getting all this money. I get to do all this stuff with it. Well, that inflation was going to hurt us. And I knew it was going to hurt us, but I knew it was going to take a lot of pain before we made any changes to get that thing fixed. And we're there now. Yeah.
And before we move too far past what you said earlier about the percentage of increase in real estate, it's very important, because I go to all these some of these business networking meetings, and the people I meet say, it's getting too saturated. Real estate investing is getting too saturated. And these are people that he was just giving me their opinions. So from what you're saying are empirical facts. So definitely, the real estate investing opportunity is still, it's still viable 100%, for the next 25 years, like you mentioned.
And again, it's going to depend over time. What are you looking at and how you're doing it? Are you buying the lot and building a house and then now you keep it? If it wasn't so amazing, why would BlackRock own so many houses and keep buying it? And so there are housing tracts where they come in, build the housing tract, and the whole housing tract is built to rent. Not built to sell, but built to rent. So they're going to rent. So they rent all those, and then they sell that whole complex to some investor like a BlackRock 3 years later. And that's how they keep doing it over and over again. Wow. If it was such a horrible thing, why are they still doing it? What those investors are talking about is like multifamily. During the pandemic, a lot of people bought multifamily because there was a lot of them, big apartment complexes. They're still doing it, but a lot of guys got in there and then they put it on adjustable loans instead of the fixed rate loan they could have got at the time. And that right now, so you're going to see a lot of multifamily over the last year and going forward, probably for the next year, just go back to the bank because they can't refinance it when we're in 7% rates. to make it work. Those are kind of what they're talking about, is with the rates so high, it doesn't make sense to buy some of these apartment complexes and stuff like that that they normally would have been able to buy. Saturated means everybody's doing it in certain areas, and they're right. So like Texas and Florida and like Tennessee are now having trouble. They're having more inventory put on the market because people want to sell, but they can't get out of there and they don't have somebody buying it. Florida, one of their biggest problems is insurance. The average policy for insurance is $14,000 a year for homeowners insurance.
Wow,
in Florida. California, unless you're in a high fire area, it's maybe $1,600, a year. But if you're in a high fire area, potentially for fires, it was around $4,000 a year for the insurance. Now with this recent stuff in LA, they're talking about that it could go way even higher. But if we actually go through and make changes, clean, clear up brush, do all the stuff that makes sense, like they do in Finland, we wouldn't have the high fires that we have now. What happens in California, and this is different, is the administration understood that they don't want to pay for anything. So they don't want to do the cleanup. But they realize if they don't do the cleanup and they get these fires, they get this huge amount of money from the Fed. And that's what they do. That's the problem. Now, and that's what you just saw in LA. That's just going to make a problem because of the fact that that is what they have been doing for the last 20 years. But now it is huge because now you've just destroyed so many homes because normally it happens in small towns, right? Small out in the mountains, and they don't care. This is LA where everybody lives there, right? Millions of people live there, and it's just decimated so many people. And now that is going to change everything going forward because of that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you mentioned about insurance rates in California and in Florida, I thought it would be reversed, because remember you had said how high it costs to just get a permit. I thought it would be anyway. How much? That shows you how much I know.
No, the difference is in California, you're paying a lot for land. But the house cost is only so much. So the house itself. So if you go towards the Bay Area and any of these places like San Francisco, LA, whatever, that land could cost you $800,000 for that lot. But the house is still only costing $300,000, $400,000 to build.
Oh, okay.
So in other states, the lot costs $25,000 and the house costs $300,000-$400,000. The reason that Florida is so expensive is because of the hurricanes. That constantly coming and hitting you, hurricanes.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah,
in California, we have earthquake insurance. I don't have it where I live in Modesto, California, because I'm away from any faults. But if you're in San Francisco, you got to have it. If you're LA, you got to have it. So there's different things, but high fire, the fire is what the issue is in California, because they don't take care of the land, allow us to take care of the land, because they don't want to displace rodents and stupid stuff like that. Now, if you look at Texas, I'm sure their insurance isn't so bad. Maybe, the hail insurance, because with the fact that they get the golf ball hail and everything else they have and the freeze, there might be something else there. But the problem with Texas is their property tax. And this is another thing you got to look at. When you move to some place that everybody says is so much better, you need to look at many things.
Look at intangibles.
Right. In California, our property tax is 1.25, unless you have Melrose, which is when they build a subdivision and they don't do the improvements, or the city does and the builder doesn't do it, they hit you with these bonds, and that's called Melrose. But let's say on average, it's 1.25 for tax rate in California. We have Prop 13, which means they can only increase the value of your property taxes at 3% of whatever it goes up a year. So if over 5-year period it went up $100,000, the max you actually could tax on your property tax number is they could only add $3,000 to it. Are you following me here? In Texas, it's your property taxes is 3%. Whatever your house goes up a year, they can do 10% of it added to your tax base. So the property tax in Texas doubles every 10 years.
Wow.
So what happened with Texas is everybody moved there, and the $250,000 houses became $500,000 houses. And now all these people's property taxes increase because there's no protection, and now they can't afford them. That's what happened in Austin. All these Verbos and what are those rental places that people are buying?
Airbnb.
They bought them and they were doing amazing in Austin, and then all of a sudden the values went through the roof, and then now those don't pencil at all because the taxes are so expensive. And also a rental property in Texas has no protection. So if your house goes up 100,000, your tax base just went up 100,000. Are you following me here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody was like, I'm moving to Texas to say, and we've been talking about this on our radio show for the past 4 years about this whole thing about everybody wants to move there and how great it is. And we're always, you know what? The grass is always greener on the other side until you actually look at it and you get there. And not only do you have to deal with this stuff, you have to deal with stuff. That's why everybody keeps asking me, why don't you leave California? Because your politics. As much as I hate the politics, I love the weather.
Yeah.
And I don't have to deal with stuff that other people have to deal with. Bugs, humidity.
Yeah. I was in San Diego. Like, is that sky real, or is it like a copy and paste?
San Diego's expensive. Yeah. But San Diego's expensive, and the problem about San Diego, I lived down there for 20 years. If you're not on the coast, living in a nice place, it doesn't. If you're living in Escondido or Fallbrook or in the, why live down there? Because you're not living in San Diego. You're living in the desert. You don't get the benefit of it. And so, but California overall, where I live in Modesto, we get hot in the summer. We'll get up to, on average summer, we'll get 110. This last year, we got up to 113 was a high, but we averaged 22 days over 100 max, usually on average during the summer. I can deal with that with the swimming pool and other things. But if I go somewhere else, I have to deal with this thing called humidity. Yeah. If it's 90, I was in South Carolina and North Carolina because my son was graduating boot camp, Army. And it was during of course, August, the hottest August on record. And we walk out of the hotel. It had just finished raining. It was 90 degrees. I almost couldn't breathe.
Wow. Oh yeah. Humidity. Yeah. Even Houston, bro. Oh Lord.
I was in San Antonio. I went to school. I went to AI school, physical therapy school in San Antonio for the military. And yeah, we were 80 and 80.
Man. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, let me ask you something real quick. So
let me finish. So the big thing is before you move anywhere, I always tell people, do not sell the house you own. Go rent there.
Yeah.
During the period of time that the worst time of the year. If you're going to move to Chicago, go there during the winter. If you're going to move to Texas, Florida, go there during the summer and see if you can handle it before you make that big decision. Because like in California, if you sell your property in California and move to one of these other states, it's going to be very difficult to come back because you won't be able to afford the home that come back. But if you leave it here and you rent it, you'll be able to come back to that home. Once you find out you love the place and you want to stay there, buy the house, then sell California house or whatever and pay the place off.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Okay.
So,
let me jump back to this. Okay. Whew. I'm getting better at this. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let me ask you, your career is like literally 30 plus years. What were some challenges or some of the toughest challenges that you faced? Especially as a veteran entering the mortgage industry and so on.
Well, I don't think that I had challenges getting in the industry as a veteran. I think the biggest challenges were 2006. And then recently in 2022 or 23, when we had interest rates that went up 5% in an industry. And that's what, so even though, so in 2006, the whole market fell apart and we had 3 million homes on the market, and that's why everything fell apart. And for the next, 4 years, or actually up to 10 years, nobody built homes, and we had to get rid of all these homes, and they went back to the bank and all that stuff. Well, that's not what happened just recently. What happened recently is, in my period of being in the mortgage industry, during a bad time is usually a 1.5 change in interest rate. We had a 5% change in interest rate. When we put during 2020 in 2021 into 22, when we were putting all these people into low interest rates, I said we're going to cause a problem. We're going to take existing home sales from 85% of the market to like 40% of the market. Well, I was wrong. It's 35% of the market. Existing home sales is the bread and butter of the industry. And if people aren't moving up and people aren't changing whatever because of these low interest rates, that's that whole abusive relationship. They're stuck there. They don't want a higher payment. They just, it's a great payment. We'll just stay here forever. That's a problem for the industry. And that has been the biggest challenge right now is if we see interest rates go back down to even 5.5 for 3 months, we'll see like 9.5 million transactions happen because of it. Because people will go, okay, you know what? This is not a 7% interest rate. This is not a 6%. It's 5. That's not that big of a deal from a 3.5 to go to 5.5. You know, I mean, it is, but eventually we might get back there. We'll never see less than 3.25% or lower rates again. And people go, how come? And well, the reason is the only reason we got there is we shut down the country. We were in a major recession. We shut the country down completely. And that is why rates went as low as they did because of that. We'll never do that again. No one will allow it ever again to happen like that. So we'll never see those rates again because of that. So the best you're going to see is before the pandemic and those interest rates dropping, the best rate I ever saw was 3.25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I was giving vets 2.125, new loans and everything, and they love it. And now we're at, right now we're looking at 6.5 to 6.625 for VA loans on average. And I'm not quoting, I'm just quoting what Fannie and Freddie are saying that, overall that they're putting out there. Because when I quote a rate, I need to give an APR to tell you what that rate is. But I'm just giving it for educational purposes, kind of where it's at. And it will get better. I mean, I saw the rates in September down around 5.5, 5.625, but they only stayed for a couple weeks. Because this is the biggest nomer is when the Fed does something, whether it's raise short-term interest rates or lower short-term interest rates, that's a Fed funds rate, that has nothing to do with the mortgage industry. The mortgage industry is based off of mortgage-backed securities, and we kind of watch the 10-year bond to see where those are going. And right now, so when the Fed actually lowered interest rates the first time, rates went up in the mortgage industry, and the people go, "Why did that happen?" Well, it basically stated that there wouldn't be a problem going forward because the Fed is going to do what they need to do to get these things under control. Did that happen? Not necessarily, but that's just what that meant. And so when they lowered it again this recent time, rates went up even higher again because of that. There's a lot of things our government can do to get these rates down. I don't think you have long enough on the show for us to talk about it, but one of the things is to buy the mortgage-backed securities that they're doing. So how they do it is they actually buy those bonds, and the government does. But one of the things they could do, and I've been saying this because I heard somebody else say it on TV probably 3 years ago, is if they made those things tax deductible, meaning that you don't pay any tax on the income you make off of them, then everybody would buy them as an investment, and that would help drop the rates down. Other countries buy our bonds and don't pay us any taxes. So why not make it tax-free to everybody else to do it? And then that would be a great investment opportunity for us as individuals to own that kind of stuff and then not actually have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving some flexibility on the tax. I do know for sure that it makes a lot of difference. So just real quick at a high level, you've been pretty successful in the past 25 years. Are there strategies, like some core strategies, or even habits that have helped you, remain successful for over such a long period?
I would one of the things, the most important thing is what do we learn in the military, right? You're on time when you're 5 minutes early, right? You're late when you're on time. I still do that to this day. I always get earlier. I was sitting in the green room before I even clicked the button, 15 minutes before the show was even there, just because I show up early. I show up ready and prepared. Attention to details, what we learned in the military. I use that all the time. SOPs. operating procedures. I create those for everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
So successful wise is just what we learn from the military is what will make you successful in business. And that's what you have to do overall. But nothing is success is how you look at it.
Yeah.
I've had a lot. I mean, I've had major challenges in that period of time. My first so many years wasn't so bad, but then, I mean, just look at 2006, that destroyed me and my company. I had to start over. Recently, we lost pretty much I'd say about 170,000 mortgage and loan officers in our industry over the past couple years, just because there's not the volume to do. And that has caused a lot of companies to get hurt. And I got hurt during that period of time, to be honest with you, because the volume just wasn't there. I had a huge team, and that team is down to just a few of us now, just because there's just not the volume there. Not that but I've actually took that information. So I was very angry for the first year of the last couple of years because of what happened to my company, because of this. Someone decided that we don't need oil, and we signed this thing off, and now we have inflation that went through the roof, and it caused interest rates to go up and everything else. And it was like, okay, that hurt me as my company. I'd never cared before about things, but I was like, I just built this beautiful team. It was an assembly line, and we did all this stuff. And even though the knowledge is still there, but I then looked at it and said, if it would have kept going, I would have never made any changes. So when you're in business or anything that happens to you, you need to look at it. Did this happen to me, or did this happen for me? Right. Because of this, I ended up writing a couple more books because of this. So my next book is the veteran one for loans and real, the whole VA one. But then I also have one for divorce people, how to handle property going through a divorce, and how to handle certain things and understand certain processes. I because of all the podcasting I do, everybody keeps asking me, hey, can you teach me how to do podcasting? Can you make do you have a course in that? So I created a book for podcasting called Pod Mastery, building. So I have three. It's build. What is it? Sorry. Build, grow, monetize. So each of those are beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And so I built that book, and now I'm building that in the course because people want to have a course to understand on podcasting. I think a lot of people think that, okay, well, podcasting, there's so many of us out there. Well, I came up with a rule of podcasting called the 10-23 rule of podcasting. 80% of the podcasts fail before the 10th episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The next 10% of that 100, we'll just say that 100% pie, fell by the 23rd episode. And one of the reasons, and then the successful ones are from there on. And that's only about 10% of everything that started of all the podcasts. So if you go to a lot of podcasts, they're out there and they're still out there, but they don't have a ton of episodes because they stop. What people realize is how much work it really is to show up, do a podcast, edit the podcast, do all the other stuff that you have to do, and grow that podcast. And that's, again, if you're going to do any of the stuff, there's a couple reasons to do it. One, do you want to be just a Joe Rogan? I don't want to be a Joe Rogan. I want to put out content that supports who I talk to. That is veterans only. Right? Helping the Brave is for veterans only. It's all about, now it went from transition stories to transition stories and business, and now we're pushing it more into getting your benefits, because I see how just like owning a home can change your life and your family, so can getting your business, your benefits can totally change your life. Because an extra $2,000 to $4,000 a month that just shows up there as a stream of income is huge.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Did you get your benefits when you got out?
I did, but I think I'm working. I didn't I didn't do all the extra stuff.
Right. What percent? So they gave you a percentage when you?
Oh no, I didn't like the paperwork on. I did not actually.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of us get out and go, "Oh, I'm fine." But the question is, are you the same as when you went in at 18?
No.
Your shoulders feel the same, your knees feel the same, your hips feel the same.
Yeah, no, you're really not qualified to know that actually
right.
by yourself. Yeah.
And the problem is, we all think as veterans, oh, we're fine. We won't ask for help. We don't need to get help. Well, the problem is, if you were under fire in the military, you're going to call for air support. So what's the difference? Why not get help? And every veteran should put in for benefits, because there's stuff that you can get. There's veterans who got yelled at in this recent, the current recent people who got yelled at. They're getting 80% disability for being yelled at in the military. And you have Purple Hearts recipients who are getting 80% also. That's a problem. Purple Hearts recipients should be at 100%. And these, what I'm getting at is people, a lot of us older who've served are stronger and go, that's not a big deal. I deal with that all day long. Yeah, that thing in my back is not a big deal. It hurts, but it's not, it doesn't affect me that much. Well, that shouldn't be that way. You should be being paid for that. That's why it's so important why I'm focused on this stuff. Because even like yourself, I'm sure you have stuff that happened to you while you're in, and you don't understand what it's worth unless someone talks to you and helps you through the process. And only in the last 5 years have I seen a lot of companies pop up to help veterans in this situation. The problem with a lot of the companies, though, is they charge anywhere from 10 to 30% of your first check. There's other people who do it out there for a flat fee and helps you through the process.
Like attorneys, that's like attorney rate, right? Woo.
Well, it is, but it's a contingency is 30%. So if they're up there, but I'm just saying, if they can help you get from 0 to 100%, that's worth something. Right? Because you're not going to do it yourself. Because just like you said, well, that paperwork, well, I don't know. Well, you don't know the certain things to say and certain things they look for and certain things and what to say when you show up at the appointment. Because we're all going to go, yeah, it's fine. Doesn't really bother me, but it's not, and they can't give you anything for that when you say that. But realistically, is there a problem? Did you have surgery? Did you have this? Did you have that? Sleep. I mean, one of the biggest things is two of them is high blood pressure and sleep apnea. How many people have sleep apnea that could have been caused from the military? A ton of it, but people don't understand how it's totally different now than when I got out. And then 10 years after that and 15 years after that today is totally different in what you can get for benefits that we don't. So if you got out 15, 20 years ago, you never went back because nobody was helping you back then.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And I don't mean to take over your show about benefits, but I just think it's it's so important. And there's a lot of companies, and I refer people, but the people I've been referring to have gotten so busy they can't handle it. So I'm starting to figure out if I'm going to actually create another one. Because I mean, like California, we have 1.5 million veterans.
Yeah,
and only probably 10% of them probably get a benefit. But probably 60% of them should.
Yeah, no, I was stationed in a desert. Well, I don't even want to describe. It's like the national. Like California border. But anyway,
are you talking? Because you were Army.
We would probably talk offline on that.
Okay.
But let me ask you. So you kind of have you almost not. Okay, I wouldn't quite call it a crystal ball per se, but you have because you've been in it so long, you have an instinctual, almost a nuanced capability to share information. Where for real estate, what is your outlook for the real estate market, for the housing market for 2025?
Well, it's not going to go down in value. It's going to go up in value. Probably going to go up in value about 5%. The question really is so until interest rates get to a certain rate, right? And so I don't know when this is going to be put out, but basically Trump's got to get through his first 100 days. And we don't know, nobody knows how that's going to affect interest rates yet until we get through that. Because some of the stuff he's going to do potentially could have offset number and actually show inflation get up a little bit worse. But overall, in long term of 2025, he's going to be his policies will do very well for the home industry and for people to get homes. It's about we need to build more homes so more people can buy homes. How do we get affordable housing? Build more homes so houses don't go up. Here's an example. During 2021 and 22, and where my town is, we went up 66% in value. So a $300,000 house is now close to $600,000 house.
Wow. Whew.
Right. So, I mean, so, because you figure if 50% going up on a $300,000, another 150, that's 450. So
Yeah.
you're close to 500 now. That's a problem. That prices people out to where they cannot afford homes.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Yeah.
we're building enough to where appreciation's at 4 to 5% a year, that we're not going to price people out of homes for a very long time. It'll take 10 years to get the 40% increase
Mm-hmm.
instead of in 3 years, 66. Are you following me here?
Wow.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when you say, what's your outlook? Well, all I have to look at is population growth
Mm-hmm.
and what's our actual building of homes and how many homes are we short? If we're short 10 million, say right now, I know for a fact the number was 3.8 million of affordable housing. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's just a small segment of the overall housing market. So that
Mm-hmm.
means we're probably 10 million short. Well,
Mm-hmm.
so that means if we need 1.9 million homes a year,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was the number. That's for just population growth. That means if we build an extra million a
Mm-hmm.
year, it'll take us 5 years to 10 years to get caught up.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to do that. We're going to be lucky if we build an extra 3 to 500,000 a year to get caught up. So that's going to take 20 to 25 years. So the only way we're going to get caught up is if they start bringing these factories. So I don't know this, but there's companies now who are creating factories to build houses in factories 24 hours a day. They bring them out on site, put them together, do the last 10% there. That is where we're going to see the growth of homes being built, because they can do a whole housing track and build it
Mm-hmm.
out there and have that done in weeks, which normally takes a housing track years to build.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what we're going to see. Eventually, you're going to see those types of things. Those are modular homes, because every house is a square. They just put them
Mm-hmm.
together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way we're going to be able to get caught up. Plus, they have these new things where they're printing homes, where they use this type of concrete mix that
Mm-hmm.
actually prints them. And that's another way they can build them faster. And that's what we'll need to do. So my outlook for real estate, it's not going to go down in value. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
go up in value. If you're going to want to buy a home, I would do it in the next 4 to 5 months.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
reason I say that is once interest rates go down, have you ever seen the Tour de France? Have you ever seen any of
Yeah.
those bike
Yeah.
races?
I catch clips of it every now and then. He's talking
All
about
right,
the
so
race, right?
you have this one guy out in front all the time,
Mm-hmm.
beating the, and then you have about 6 behind him trying to catch him, and then you have this thing called a peloton. There's hundreds and hundreds of riders in that, and that
Yeah.
peloton usually catches them as they get closer to the end. Well, right now that guy out in front is buying a house right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In 2 months from now, when rates drops 1%, those other 6 riders are those people going to be buying those homes. Once
Mm-hmm.
interest rates get down to 5, that peloton is what's going to be buying homes. So you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be against a lot more competition and a lot more people going to do multiple offers. So it's going
Mm-hmm.
to, so I'm, even though it looks like it's a bad time with interest rates, well, that's okay. The house value won't go down. It'll only go up. So in
Yeah.
6 months from now, a year from now, when rates drop even more and
Yeah.
you can refinance, you own your home. Now you're just lowering your payment. And I
Yeah.
did that in September. I dropped a lot of people like $600-700 in their payment
Mm-hmm.
because they bought earlier, waiting for the interest rates to drop, and they just happened to
Mm-hmm.
drop that month. And so I refinanced them all. So
Wow.
crystal ball, I don't have a crystal ball, but I just
Yeah.
look at numbers.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah.
Numbers,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
Yeah,
you
no,
just
I like that ratio that I'm going to actually follow up on that, because I'm starting to kind of merge and get my feet a little wet into that whole real estate investment. So, but I'm gonna that looks very powerful. I don't want to forget the fun question, man, because I think it's a priority. So let me ask you: what is your Mount Rushmore of business related books, especially for people in real estate investment? What is your top 4? Yeah,
Dude, I don't really
of the
read books about that
uh-huh,
stuff. I would tell anybody,
uh-huh.
if you're doing anything at all, like Alex Hermosi, start listening to
Oh, Hormozy, okay.
listen to The Game, his
Yeah.
podcast, because he
Uh-huh.
talks about everything all over the place.
Yeah.
I listen to so many things, more than I book wise. Like this is the book
Mhm.
for real estate investing.
Yeah.
Um, what's his name? Brandon, the guy. So
Is it the Brandon from Big Pockets that you try?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. I
yeah,
got you.
so
I got you.
him,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's got a ton of books that talks
Yeah.
about investing and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. And the bigger pockets people did really well, and then that Brandon stepped out of that, and he buys a ton of investment properties and does stuff. But again, the question really is what is your ultimate goal? Okay. You need to put 100% in on whatever you want to build. And that's what, like, I listened before we came on here. I did a 5-mile walk. I've been on a journey this year to drop weight because I was my president of my Rotary last year, and I got up to like 291. I'm down to I'm in 230 now. And that was my goal, to drop weight. Well, during that walks, I listened to different podcasts. I was listening to him today, and he was talking about you can own a lot of different companies and be CEO of all those companies, but wouldn't you rather be a CEO of one company where, so all those companies make $1 million, but would you rather be a CEO of a company that makes $10 to $20 million? And that's, so you need to focus, even though there's all these other streams of income that you can do. You might want to, there's many different ways to invest in real estate. You don't have to actually buy a piece of property. You can get into a REIT. You can get into one of these different types of syndications, all this stuff where you give them $100,000 and they give you dividends each month, and then you get your money back in 3 years. There's many different ways to get in. And I'm just saying you don't have to buy a ton of real estate, because a lot of people don't want to be landlords. They don't want that. And that's okay. The most important one is the one you're going to buy to live in. And then I tell people, buy that second home or that other home you're going to retire to way before you want to retire to it.
Oh, wow.
And rent it out. Right. And the reason is because people are like, well, I'm going to retire in 10 years. I'm going to move to Tennessee or whatever. Well, go buy that place now.
Oh, nobody even thinks about that.
Rent it out. And then when you are ready to retire, you'll have it almost paid off. And when you sell your house, you keep this house and wherever you're at now, you rent it out and you make $5,000 a month, whatever that number is, depending on but they just think smarter, plan ahead.
And that way it's not that expensive either. If you wait till you retire, you buying at that price,
at that price point. Buy it earlier. Even if you don't retire there, who cares? But another thing is, if you have kids, this is why help them their first home, help them buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. If they're just a regular individual where you're not doing the VA loan stuff, right? If your kid doesn't have the VA loan, you can buy a fourplex for 5% down if they live in one of the units. That used to be 15 to 20% down. Fannie Mae came out with a program about a year ago that says, okay, we want more people to buy these multifamily homes. So we're going to allow you to purchase it with only 5% down. And you help your kid, and you can, and what used to be the problem is if you were a non-occupying co-borrower, which meant the parents were helping the kid buy that place, like they're on there, they're using their income and their other stuff, that went up to 15%. And that's a problem with that. We did this forever with FHA, but if it was a non-occupying co-borrower, now it skewed messed everything up, and they had to put so much more money down. So it was better to go conventional. Now, with only 5% down on a, so on a $500,000 place, that's 10% is 50. So 5% is $25,000 down to buy that place as an investment property. They live in one of the units and they get the rents from the other three to help them offset the numbers. You can't do that VA. What I mean by that is you can buy it VA, live in one of the units, but the other three rents, say it's a fourplex, you can't use to qualify. You have to qualify for the whole thing, which is not a big deal if it works for you. You can still get the rents later, but you just can't use it for qualifying purposes. And it has to do with the fact that VA loan can only be with a vet or their significant other. So I think that is why you can't use those rents from those other three units to help you qualify.
Oh, okay. That's pretty powerful. So if you do the 5% program and you have three people paying rent in there, you can you can
use 75% of that rents to help you qualify. Yes.
And that's way more impactful than if you're using the VA, because the VA will cap you on.
And two separate situations. Right. One's your kid. They're not, unless they're a vet. It's your kid. It's totally different. But what you can do is they're going to go to school in wherever they're going to school. We'll buy a fourplex, put them in one of it, and then that way, and then have the other 3 rented out by the kids in the college or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, there's so
Huh.
many and then now you're
Wow.
investing to do it's and then but still give it to your kid and say,
Yeah.
okay, here, this is your first, I'm going to help you.
Mhm.
We're going to split the equity and whatever until you refinance and buy me out.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
helping
okay.
them, but they're also learning that, hey, help comes with a cost, meaning that opportunity, you're not just going to give them something for free. They're going to learn how to build it with you. And that's
Mhm.
why not help them? It's a great program to help them do this.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is 100% awesome.
And if
Yeah,
anybody
man.
has questions at all
Mhm.
about any of this stuff, you can find me at edparcaut.com,
Oh, okay.
edparcaut.com. That's my website. You can find me Ed
Okay.
Parcaut everywhere on social media. YouTube channel is all Ed Parcaut.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's great. That is, yeah, because I
I'm
was
Ed,
just gonna
so
ask
I
you
have a
that.
unique last name, Parcaut.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's only probably about 10 of us in the country, so I was the first. I'm the only Ed Parcaut alive today.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, great, man. Hey, that is awesome, guy. Because I was just gonna ask you about your social media handles. Yeah, man. And thank you so much, Ed, for jumping on. I've got so many things to pick your brains about. I gotta invite you back next year, man. Yeah, and hopefully I don't get distracted because you got so much knowledge. I start heading off in the tangent. But yeah, thank you so much, Ed, for coming on. And I know you got weekend plans and everything, but for everybody listening, go get his book. Go to edparcaut.com. Go follow him on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, and pick up tons and tons of knowledge. I mean, I was here for just an hour, and I feel like I've been in a 4-month class. All right, Ed. Thank you so much, and I hopefully we can bring you again next year or this
Anytime.
year, later this year.
Anytime. Just ask me.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, follow us on the podcast at the VP. Get the VP everywhere you can find your social media. All right, everybody, that's a wrap.